Ubisoft wants to reassure us about Assassin's Creed Shadows. We got a worrying Wolverine update, Sony shut down 2 studios, and way more gaming news to go over, so sit back and let's go. Starting with some very interesting news that I think is kind of a red flag for PlayStation fans. So Brian Horton, the creative director on Marvel's Wolverine, has namely left Insomniac to join the initiative to work on Perfect Dark. We saw the first gameplay for this stealth action game in June and it already looked pretty promising. We could use gadgets to steal the voice from a character to unlock a door. Parkour is like Mirror's Edge. You could sneak into an apartment and then take out the soldiers that were going after you with some pretty awesome moves. So Brian Horton has a pretty great track record. He was the creative director on Miles Morales, he worked on Spidey 1, was the director for Rise of the Tomb Raider, and also for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare's campaign that, don't shoot me, I actually quite enjoyed. But yeah, most recently in early 2021, after Miles Morales, he was creative director on Marvel's Wolverine. And it's never a good sign if someone who's in charge of all the creative decisions on a game leaves more than halfway through the development. The changes atop the Wolverine development team are the result of creative decisions around the game, the 2 sources told GameVile. So it seems like some creative decisions caused Brian Horton to leave the studio, and also game director Cameron Christian is not a game director on Wolverine anymore, but he does remain at Insomniac. Curious if the Insomniac leak has anything to do with it, which caused the full Wolverine game, like a presentation about it, basically beat for beat the whole script. There was some early gameplay, it all appeared online. Maybe they looked at what people were saying and that caused some issues. I don't know, we can keep speculating, we will probably never know, at least not for a long time. So now the duo that directed Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is in charge of Wolverine, and both had worked on previous Insomniac games as well. But yeah, if you thought that Wolverine had a chance of releasing in 2025, that is not going to happen, and maybe because of this switch, the leaked 2026 date is off the table as well. But yeah, big get for Xbox to get Brian involved, although yeah, that also means that Perfect Dark is still far away if they're now getting a new creative director. Curious to hear your take, of course. I'm looking at least forward to both titles, but especially regarding Wolverine, I'm a tiny bit worried right now. I'm less worried about Assassin's Creed Shadows, and this might sound weird to some people. If you have to believe all the videos online, then it's of course going to be a dumpster fire, and totally, Ubisoft deserved some of the critique that they got in terms of historical accuracy, but I also think that we sometimes forget that this is the team that did Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it looks really good. Like, they're finally adding some much needed improvements to the stealth and the overall world. We also just have not really seen a lot about the game yet. Like, we got this week some new gameplay at a Mac event, but it's the same kind of footage that we've seen for many months, although the movement does look a bit improved. So this week Ubisoft had their investor call, and while they said that there will always be bugs, they are realistic, the day one experience should be well optimized, especially thanks to the delay. And they say that they have a really sizable team working on making sure that the game is as polished as possible, and that is costing them 20 million euro extra in budget. So an investor asked if the game could get further delayed, and Ubisoft of course did not say no, it won't be delayed further, but they really said that the chances of that happening are very slim. It really seems to be launching on February 14th. They also expect that the launch will be successful. They expect to have a record first quarter with 900 million euros in revenue, and a large part should be thanks to Shadows. We will have to wait and see. Of course, let me know if you think they are right about this in the comments down below. Right now you cannot even pre-order the game digitally, so I hope we get the sort of relaunch soon. Maybe at the Game Awards on December 12th, or they could wait till early January and then just go full force into the release without any gaps. I will keep you posted, of course, here. Yes, Sony sent me the PS5 Pro. Still got it in the box. We'll be talking about it and making videos on it very soon. So that is this coming week. Let's now look at some other gaming news. By the way, a reminder, I'm still doing that giveaway for an upcoming game of your choice on your platform of choice. Link is in the pinned comment. Be a subscriber of the channel if you want to participate. And a like, of course, would really help me out. And overall, it's nice to subscribe so you're up to date, because we post one of these gaming news roundup videos every Sunday. But yeah, the fact is still that Ubisoft is not doing too hot, so they wanted to reassure their shareholders during this week's investor call and say that 6 franchises they got made more than $1 billion in revenue over the last 10 years. So I think it's fun to close your eyes and kind of think, what are the 6 franchises that Ubisoft is talking about here? I will start with number 1 and then kind of go down and then see how many you got. So number 1, Assassin's Creed. That's really the biggest franchise they got. Ubisoft said the series made $4 billion in the last 10 years, which is really impressive. Although you could argue that the number 2, Rainbow Six Siege, is even more impressive because that brought in $3.5 billion in the last 10 years. And that's only one game. If you are still wondering why every publisher is chasing live service games, well, here you have a good explanation. One game makes almost as much as 7 Assassin's Creed titles combined, which is crazy. And Rainbow Six probably made more profit as well. Number 3 is also impressive, Far Cry at $2 billion, so this includes Far Cry 4, 5, 6 and the spin-offs. Although we know that Far Cry 5 already made a sizable amount of that in the first week, instantly becoming profitable. Okay, how are you doing so far? The other 3 are in random order, but they all made more than $1 billion in the last 10 years. Just Dance? Yes. The Division? And the final one is Ghost Recon. And I think that one in particular is interesting, as we know Breakpoint of course did very poorly, so that $1 billion number is mostly Wildlands. Which kind of crazy to think about. And yes, Watch Dogs is strangely absent, even though 3 big games launched in the last 10 years. Like, those games probably cost more than 500 million combined, maybe more. So that franchise just is not as profitable for Ubisoft. So I think, while I'm kind of sad about it, it makes sense that Ubisoft is focusing on the other franchises right now instead. We should expect a new Far Cry and Ghost Recon in the next 16 months, and they got a lot to prove, because really if you think about it, most of these games made like the most significant amount of that money in the first 5 years and not the last 5 years. So that actually makes this list way less impressive if you think about it. The inevitable happened this week. PlayStation closed Concord developer Firewalk. Concord will also never return. It's over. Like they said, they looked at all the options. But yeah, as we all know, there was no way forward for this. Like, the beta was free as well, but still no one tried it out. So why would a free-to-play launch work? Nobody asked for this game, but yeah, the sad reality of course is that the developers that were just doing what they were told are now out of a job, while PlayStation management that really put a ton of money, 200 million was just the price for the game, and this does not include the price for acquiring the studio and the rights of the IP. So this cost them more than the budget of God of War Ragnarok. We will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver further growth in this area. I'm really curious what these learnings are, like let's not chase trends and make a game actually people want to play. Maybe this also results in the cancellation of Fair Games, because so far that looks like another like a heist extraction based game that no one asked for. Maybe the gameplay can prove us wrong, like there are some veteran Ubisoft developers there that for example worked on the Assassin's Creed franchise for a very long time, so I still want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I am kind of worried. But yeah, again, Rainbow Six Siege shows you why these companies want to keep trying, because if one of these games hits, it can pay for the other failures. But yeah, I'm not sure what that game will be, like Sony Ben's game could be good, Horizon Online or Marathon. I'm just not convinced that any of these titles will be what they're looking for. But yeah, Sony also closed Neon Koi, a mobile team they bought in 2022. They were working on an action game, but Sony basically between the lines said that it wasn't good enough. Because they note that while mobile remains a priority growth area for the studio business, we are in the very early stage of our mobile efforts. To achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PlayStation Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. and seems like that game from Neon Koi was not that. But yeah, they've been working on mobile for a very long time, using their own IP, although they were all like tiny, old school mobile games, nothing crazy. But yeah, they want to go big. We know, for example, that NCSoft is doing an Horizon MMO, and of course Destiny Rising, while not being made by Sony, now that they own the Destiny IP, they of course get some money from that as well. It looks pretty solid, although, as you expect, it's a gacha game. Dragon Age the Veilguard is doing pretty well on Steam. It reached the top seller spot for a brief moment and broke the concurrent Steam numbers for a BioWare game, although, what was the last BioWare game that launched day one on Steam? Exactly. So it's not a really good comparison, because all these games have been launching day one on Origins and not on Steam. Although it did beat Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so that's pretty good for EA. Now, I saw people compare the concurrent of Dragon Age to things like Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk. Like, sure, it won't come close to that, but that was never realistic. It's really all about the expectations that EA had for this game that has been in development for a long time, like even before Anthem came out in 2019. I still need to spend more time with it. It starts really slow with kind of predictable level design, but I like the combat, so I will keep playing, and I know it opens up more later. So we plan to do more videos on Dragon Age this coming week, so look forward to that, including a review from Dennis, who has been playing way more than me. Again, I'll be diving into the PS5 Pro and share my thoughts on that, and I might share my review on Dragon Age on a second channel. I will leave a link to it and talk about it when I post that video. And we will of course have more content here on the main channel as well, with a big gaming news roundup video like this at the end of the week. So subscribe to not miss it, a like would really help me out, and check out my video with more Assassin's Creed Shadows info if you haven't already by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you very soon, goodbye!